I'm Arthur Torrington of Windrush Foundation, and we welcome you back to Caribbean Gateway. This particular section is sponsored by the Lottery, National Lottery. And we welcome back Ansel Wong, who was here with us last week. Now, Ansel was very involved in the 1970s, and tell us something about the Black Liberation Front in the 70s.
Well, the 70s was a period of great activism and community engagement and involvement. And as young lions, young individuals, we were all involved in different aspects of coping with some of the issues that we had to face, whether it was education, whether it was police brutality, whether it was the opportunity to develop entrepreneurial skills, or whether we want to create a community in terms of our survival and development. So a lot of things were happening. People were thinking about along those lines. There were community organizations being developed, whether it's based on the partner or the SUSU and so on. And there's also an opportunity for community organizations to come together to look at ways in which we can build an infrastructure for our community. One of such organizations was the Black Liberation Front.
You're involved in that?
Yes, I was one of the people who were involved and started the Black Liberation Front, together with a number of very good, important activists, Tony Suarez and others. And we developed that on the basis of an understanding and building on a kind of understanding of what we were experiencing as a community. The struggles we were having to fight against discrimination, racism, and negative implications, whether it's in the schools, whether it's in the hospitals and employment, or wherever. So behind the Black Liberation Front was an opportunity to create an ideology and an understanding for all community members, and also to develop structures and organizations that would reflect our concerns. So, for example, out of the Black Liberation Front came Ujima Housing Association, which was one of the largest black housing associations in the country. And we were looking at ways in which our second and third generation young people could find steps on the housing ladder. And part of my work was also to be involved in that.
You were a founding member then?
Yes, and for one of the projects, I was the warden at a center in Ladbroke Grove, Colville Terrace, where we had 15 young women who were homeless and who were chucked out by their parents. You know, we went through that period of time when parents had that particular attitude of bringing up their children. If they didn't behave, out you go. We picked them up and gave them an opportunity to survive and live in that environment. And then with a hope of gaining nomination rights from the housing associations and then moving them on. So at that time, squatting was a popular activity. So we had a group of people who would go around to identify empty properties, and we squat those properties, break in, build them up, paint, put in the infrastructure, and bring our young people to stay there. They can stay there for about a month or 3 years. But the idea is that we wanted to, in practical ways, cope with our housing problems.
Let's move on to the 1980s, because you were involved and worked at the GLC. So maybe you can talk a little about that, the GLC days, and what happened.
In a sense, it is an evolution from my political understanding, because when Ken Livingstone gained the mayoral role, he brought together a number of us to help him to drive that agenda. And I came in together with Herman Ousley as his deputy, the deputy to Herman Ousley, who was the principal race relations advisor. And the idea was Ken set up the ethnic minorities unit of the GLC. And the idea was to be able to look at it from a perspective of anti-discrimination. So I went in as the deputy director to Herman Ousley, and then when Herman left, I took over control and was the principal race relations advisor. We developed then an agenda for race equality for the Greater London Council. And that agenda had a number of strands, one of which is grant aid, funding, to enable it, using the local authority legislation. It was, I think it was section 137, which you get a percentage of the grant that people have and pool it and get some £2-3 million. Then we use that to grant aid community initiatives. So people would apply to us, and then we will engage with grant, as well as promotional work. So we would promote arts and culture. We would bring in people to look at what they're doing. We would look at the whole of the Greater London ambit of responsibility, whether it's housing, whether it's arts, whether it's economic development. And we would say to them, what's the race element of it? Where it is that you're demonstrating your struggle to fight against discrimination within your services. So housing department will have to do that. The arts department will have to do that. Economic development and so on. We did also, in parallel with other units, there was a women's unit who looked after issues around gender. Then there was a police unit which also looked at issues around policing in London.
But Ansel, hold on a second. But the JLC was also helping with the carnival. Weren't they involved in some way with the carnival? Because you were involved in the carnival as well.
Yes, I mean that came after, but yes, okay. Part of our engagement was to support elements of the artistic expression, so that people who were involved in costumes and making, people involved in music, people involved in producing and composing songs. We did all of that, support each other wherever they had an opportunity, or whenever they came to us for help. So we felt an engagement of doing something positive within local communities and developing a very positive attitude towards race and ethnicity and nationality.
Yeah, can we come to Carnival then? I mean, you're very involved in Carnival. Yeah. Maybe you can give us a good brief summary of that involvement, and then we'll talk about your present project.
Right. My Carnival involvement in Carnival came in my role as the head of a community education center. We call it a communiversity.
And where?
This was in Harrow Road. It was called Elimu Center. Elimu is a Swahili word for knowledge or education. And the idea was that there was a need to address some of the issues of our young people who were in schools who were not performing, what I call truanting in the head. But they were therefore being physically there. They weren't truanting, they were attending, but they were truanting in the head because they're in school, but they're not engaging in that involvement. So I think that was a key element, and therefore we decided, because we were on Harrow Road, which is a few hundred yards from the carnival, the opportunity exists. People were just saying to us, well, why don't we get involved in the carnival? My understanding of carnival is very limited to what I had experienced in Trinidad. So I was a bit reluctant to kind of get involved. But the young people were pushing us and saying, no, let's do something. And we decided to do something. And because I was interested in filmmaking and so on, we decided to make a film using a Super 8 camera and get the young people to make a film about Carnival in their own area. We did that. It was called High Mass, and they enjoyed that. Then the next step was, why don't we participate? So I thought, well, this is quite demanding. And basically, each step, each year, you got further and further into the carnival, until after our engagement, we started to bring a carnival band and started to develop our own costumes, encourage our young people to design, create the costumes, choreograph the dances, and engage with musicians and so on. And in the end, we became quite an established carnival band. So for the last 36 years, we have been continuing to involve in carnival.
What's happening now?
To this day.
What's happening now?
I think today we're at a seminal point, a juncture, because the carnival has a number of issues, a number of challenges. And I think it's for all of us to begin to address those challenges. Last year's Carnival 2017 was very challenging. If not,
in what way though? How?
It was challenging because for the first time we were being required to look at issues around terrorism and acid attacks. Because as you know, around the world, around Europe, we were faced with opportunities where people were using articulated lorries to mow people down. And Carnival provided an ideal landscape for that to happen. So there was this concern, to the extent to which it really defined how you got in and out of Carnival. And as a result of that, there were a lot of people who were unable to participate because of the security measures that the police took and the Carnival organizers took.
Like who?
That influence.
Who couldn't participate?
Because if you didn't have the opportunity to convince the regulatory authorities that the person who's driving that lorry is not a terrorist, then you can't come into the carnival, essentially. And that's what happens.
So that's vetting. There was vetting.
Vetting, and you had to provide all the details. You had to provide license number plates. You have to provide the lorry, all the details of the lorry, and so on. When you're renting a lorry from someone, you don't have all those details.
That's the point.
So come the day or 2 days before Carnival, that's the time you will have. By the time you give the police those details to check Interpol to find out whether your driver has been held up as a potential terrorist or not, you can't get in.
So now this year being Windrush 70, I mean, how are you going to deal with all those things?
Well, Elimu has taken the line as because we have a lot of respect for the Windrush Foundation, and as you know, we work closely. So we are beginning to look at it, and our whole presentation in 2018 is called "London is the Place for Me." It is based on Lord Kitchener's song that was captured on the BBC newsreel, singing the song "London is a Place for Me." And what we're doing is we're taking that song and working with calypsonians to mix that song in a different way so that it becomes more upbeat and becomes like a road march to be danced to on the Notting Hill.
Okay, Ansel, just tell us a little how we can get in contact with you and the project.
We welcome everybody to get involved in the project, also to learn a little more. We are at Elimu Band, ELIMU Band @gmail.com. That's our email address.
And the website?
And the website is elimumassacademy.com.
Repeat.
Elimu, that's www.elimumassacademy, ELIMUMAS academy.com.
Ansel, thank you very much. It's really great speaking to you, and as you know, there's a lot of work to do this year, and I wish you all the best. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
And we'll pass you back to Lavina.